Shame is a very dangerous emotion and it can easily kill you. Have a look at this next clip. What Anthony Hopkins says is absolutely true.
I just read an interesting book. It said that most people lost in the wilds, they die of shame.
What?
Yeah. See, they die of shame. What did I do wrong? How could I have gotten myself into this? And so they sit there and they die. Because they didn't do the one thing which would have saved their lives.
And what is that, Charles?
Thinking.
I know that this is true because this actually happened to me. I spent about 6 months building a 16-foot sea kayak using the stitch and glue method. It was a combination of Okumi plywood and fiberglass over the plywood to make it waterproof. I spent a long time building this kayak and I knew it would float, but I was so keen to see how it would perform in the water that I actually took it to the water before it was completely finished. At the front and back of this kayak, fore and aft, you have 2 watertight hatches where you can stow all your equipment, and they're accessed via 2 hatches on the outside of the kayak, and these hatches need to be waterproof. So these compartments have 2 purposes. They give you somewhere to store all your equipment, but also if you turn the kayak over, being watertight, you've got a large compartment at the front and rear of the kayak, which is essentially full of air, and that keeps it afloat. One of the last jobs building this kayak was to finish the hatches and attach them, but I couldn't wait, and I told myself that I'll stay in shallow waters and it'll be absolutely fine as long as I stay waist height in the water. I could take it and just give it a bit of a test ride or a test paddle. So I took it down to Hamworthy, which is in Poole in Dorset. I got into the kayak on the water and I paddled out, and as it was a calm day I got a little bit carried away and I took the kayak quite far out. As I turned round to have a look at the shore, I was just amazed at how small the people were. They were just like little dots, and I'd really gone quite far on this kayak. And literally just out of nowhere, some clouds came across and the weather just turned. It started to get windy and there was some waves, but I thought, okay, the weather's getting bad, so what I'll do is I'll take the kayak back in now. So as I'm paddling to the shore, I thought it would be a good idea, being an ex-surfer, to catch a wave, because that would help me to get into shore more quickly. So as a little wave came along, I timed it and I started to paddle faster and faster, and the kayak did actually catch the wave. But the problem is, if you imagine a surfboard is like 5 to 6 foot, the kayak was 16 foot. And what happened was, as it caught the wave, the rear of the kayak started to travel faster than the front and turn sideways, and it's almost like it started to go in slow motion. I thought, I know what happens next, I'm getting tipped over. So sure enough, the kayak went sideways, and despite my best efforts, it caught the water and turned over. And if you bear in mind that I've got a thing called a spray skirt on, which goes around you and attaches to the kayak, there's a little bit of rigging on the kayak, I've got the oars, and before I know it, I'm in the water without a life jacket, without flares, without a radio, and I'm attached to a kayak which is sinking. And the first thing on my mind was, oh my God, you're an idiot. Why have you done this? Why did you take the boat out before you finished it? Why didn't you bring flares? Why didn't you tell someone where you were going so they would know where you are? And I remembered this clip from the film The Edge, where Anthony Hopkins says people die of shame, and that thought actually helped me in that moment. It made me think, okay, you've got to stop thinking like this, and you have to actually start doing something. The kayak was sinking, so what I did was I had to make a split-second decision, and that was to flip it upside down so the hull was facing up, and then the air would be caught inside the kayak. That worked, and then I had to get on top of the kayak and paddle it as if you were paddling a surfboard. So I remember looking at the shore and seeing people, just these little tiny dots, and I remember thinking, I'm in trouble here, and I'm looking at these people and they have absolutely no idea that I'm in trouble. You know, even if I waved at them, they might just wave back. They have no idea what's going on. But I paddled really hard. I managed to get to the beach eventually, and all the adrenaline was just flowing through my system. And I remember a guy coming straight up to me and just asking me questions about the kayak, and I really didn't want to speak after that. But I think this is something that happens to people a lot when they're in emergency situations. They start to think, how could I get myself into this situation? And that's where the mind goes first, and it robs you of valuable minutes and seconds that could save your life. But also, on a day-to-day basis, we probably waste so much energy thinking, why did I do this, why did I do that, when we need to just focus on the solution, the logical next step. And sometimes it's really hard to do that, but you have to get hold of yourself and think, okay, what's the next step? So next time you're in that situation and you're thinking, how could I have done this? How could I have got into this situation? Remember that clip with Anthony Hopkins.